There's an old adage that states there's an exception to every rule. And the rule that all Subaru engines will fail prematurely has an exception. And that exception is the H6. And my, what an exception. This has been an engine that I have been chasing to tear down on this channel for a really, really long time. One of my best friends runs a Subaru-only salvage yard that specializes in engines and transmissions, and it took him years to come up with a bad H6. And now, let's talk about the term bad. So normally when I would tear down a bad Subaru engine, you'd be able to see the inside from the outside. That is the normal mode of failure for most Subaru engines. But the H6, this bad engine, it has a broken off bell housing bolt. And I think it may have failed a leak down test. I know, it's disheartening. We're not going to get to meet Uncle Rodney prematurely. There's not going to be any malice. Well, okay, we don't know that because it did fail a leak down test, but I'm afraid that this is the worst EZ30 that I have been able to find in the years that I've been looking, because these engines do not go bad. To say that these engines are indestructible is a rather bold claim. And like we've seen many times on this channel with several engines that were thought to be indestructible, if someone puts their mind to it, or, well, takes their mind out of it, they can destroy anything if you just don't care enough. However, you cannot convince me that the demographic that bought six-cylinder Subarus is inherently better at taking care of cars than the ones that bought four-cylinders. It just doesn't check out, especially considering the last Subaru made with a six-cylinder was the 2018 model year. So my only recommendation to you, if you're in the used car market and you want to buy a Subaru, which normally I would recommend against, if you have to buy a Subaru, you should definitely consider buying a six-cylinder. You'll have a way better ownership experience in the long run. That being said, there are certain YouTube personalities, which I will not name, that have claimed quite the opposite. Claimed that you should only buy the four cylinders and stay away from the six cylinders. Well, everyone has their opinion. It just happens that theirs is wrong. The first year for the H6 in North America, and I'm not talking about the SVX or the six-cylinder in the Loyale series, but in the Legacy and Outback, the H6, as most of us know it, came out in 2001, and that is this engine here, the EZ30. This is an easy engine to own. That's probably not why they named it. I'm sorry, it's a terrible dad joke. This produces 250 horsepower, which is a lot more than the naturally aspirated four-cylinder and on par with the turbo engine, which came to us later. This is out of a 2005 Outback with just over 200,000 miles on it, and it is from my buddy Pete at P&P Auto Group. They are a Subaru specialty yard. I'll leave a link to them in the description if you need parts. So we all owe Pete a huge thank you for finally finding an H6. Well, looking at this engine, it's clear that I'm going to be in for a fun time. Corrosion is the name of this game. In fact, I found some hardware in here that were hiding some really, really deep. Look at that. I don't understand how it gets so bad. This is from the Northeast, so of course they salt the roads most of the year. Well, they probably salt the roads needlessly, but whatever. We're not going to talk about that. But this is really corroded, and I think the thing that's going to fight me the most is the front cover, because for some unknown reason, these are the fasteners that they picked for the front cover. I don't understand it. Also looks like someone's tried to clean this up at some point in time. But it does have a Subaru oil filter, so I am hopeful that this will be much better in the inside than the outside. So the guys at P&P marked the broken bell housing bolt, and they also drew a square around the center cylinder on this bank. So I'm going to think that that's where a problem lies. I don't really have all the details, but we're going to tear it down and find out. The coils and plugs are out of the other side, so let's go ahead and make this side match. They're auto lights. I don't know why people keep buying these. There are certain vehicles they're perfectly fine for. I wouldn't put them in a Japanese car or a German car. My personal preference. But these three look pretty similar. They look relatively newer. I'd rather see new wrong plugs than really neglected correct plugs. I have no doubt that this engine will turn over, but the question is, how well? Keep in mind, there are no plugs in it, so it should be completely smooth the whole time. And it is. It feels good. The next first thing I'm going to do is tear the intake off of it. I think we're going to put my battery on the charger here. It was just the low battery. Yes, but corrosion. It's going to be the name of this game. Every bolt I take, every thread I break, there's a song there. What the? Do I need air for this? I didn't think I would need air for 8mm threaded bolts, but here we go. Let's get the extension out. This is not a big bolt, guys. I hope this isn't setting a precedent for the rest of the teardown. This is ridiculous. Let's go get an impact socket. I feel like Pete did this on purpose. Broken. This is just an obscene amount of corrosion. Let's get this crankcase vent hose off. If this is what Eric O has to deal with all the time, I feel like we all owe him many cases of beer. This is ridiculous. This does come off. I've seen it. I've seen it before. Let's get blue. Look at that. A little persuasion. Yeah, it was the broken off bolt. That's in the head. Nice. Sure, this side will be much easier. It was much easier. Since this thing is so crusty, I'm actually going to spray some penetrator all over the fasteners. I don't know if this is going to make any difference whatsoever. This may be a total waste of time, but at least I got to say penetrator. Before we go yanking on stuff, let's get the harness disconnected. It's real simple engine harness here. Every locking tab is breaking. A lot of dirt and debris end up in these. All of these are really tough. Is that it? I feel like there's going to be more. No, we have some fuel lines. Wait a minute. Now I think the intake will just pop right off. Well, the intake port's rusty. They're clean, but rusty, if that makes any sense at all. Same story on this side. This one's really bad. This whole side is pretty bad. That one's not too terrible, but the front two, not great. We're gonna take a minute and clear some stuff out of the center of the engine. So much rust.
Just leave that there.
Ooh, that's crunchy. This is super crunchy. Oh yeah, rust dust. Oh, we missed a bolt up here. Let's just insert this in the bolt removal port. Oh, that's much better. Yeah, it comes right off. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh yeah. All right, we got the harness here. Let's disconnect the knock sensors. All right, now we just have this thing right here. We'll just go ahead and get this bracket off. All right, the next thing I want to do is get the injectors and rails out. Blue. I guess those are staying. Yep, those are staying. Okay, let's see if we can get the crank pulley off. Oh, that wasn't bad. It came right off. Now it's time for the timing cover bolts. And I really don't understand this. I don't know what kind of oxygen deprived drop tick as a baby engineer came up with hex head bolts as the right or the best hardware for timing cover bolts. And especially considering this engine spent most of its time taking a salt bath, this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm also going to make sure that they're fully seated, because if I strip one of these out, only bad things will happen. Oh, that one feels bad. No, no. No, that one's not happy. Great. I got the initial pop out of it, but we're gonna have to come back to that. Nope, that's gonna do the same thing. This is pretty terrible. Can't imagine doing this. In the car? No way. No, that one's done. Yeah, the ones that don't feel like they're seated, those are the ones that are having a problem. I got an idea. Let's see if that increases my odds. Any of the ones that kind of feel muddy going in, I'm just gonna give them the old dental treatment here. No. Nope, that one's unhappy. Yes. This one's terrible. You think being right next to the dipstick tube, this would be better, but it's worse. Oh. No, okay. I'm not even going to give the other one a second try. Hopefully that we can get some vice grips on the ones that strip, and the ones that are inaccessible with vice grips, we can get those out. That's the goal here. So those bolts, these perimeter bolts, these don't really bother me too much because they're easy to get to. It's bolts like this and this. I can tell you that one's really rough. That one's really rough. We're going to have to do even more. Yeah. Very good. Oh, that one feels bad. That one's muddy. Oh, that one's bad. Okay, I'm going to zip out all the loose ones, and then we're going to focus on the ones that are stripped. Oh, that one's bad. Oh, that one, dang it. I think that's it. All right, we're gonna do our best to get these out this way. I'm very grateful that the bolts that broke off were accessible, or that rounded off were accessible. This is not a guarantee. As you can see. Yeah, that was that one. Okay, well, that gives me a little hope. This one, though, Yeah. Okay, we're cooking here. This one doesn't have the best access here. This is probably gonna be the toughest one. Maybe. No, that's not gonna work. This may not be easier, but we're gonna. I think it is because I have more rotation on it. Yes. Okay. I just have those two that are going to be a problem. Let me see if I can hammer some extractors on them. Let's try the vice grips again. I don't really have an extractor that fits this that well. It's either too big or too small because this is not the head of a 6-sided bolt. That's not going to work. I'm going to use my air hammer to kind of peen the inside of it together. Maybe the vibrations and shock from that will help. And you could always drill these out. Oh, look at that. Yes. Yeah. Yes, sir. And like that, all the bolts are out. There are a couple 10 millimeters here at the bottom. All right, I think now it is, oh wow. That just ripped. The metal just came apart. Wait, there's a bolt back here. Why is there a 10 millimeter back here at the edge? Why? Because there can be. Just testing some reflexes here. I don't think that did a single thing for me, I'm gonna be honest with you. Well, we're moving down here. We're leaking some oil. Good thing I got my pan there. There's a dowel right here. Let's see if we can't yeah, I don't know. They don't really give you really great places to pry. All right, we're doing stuff now. Do not recommend prying off of an oil control solenoid, but here we are. It's stuck right here on this dowel. Oh yeah, did you hear that? Let's put some pressure on this here. This is probably the toughest timing cover I've had. But we got her. And timing cover's off. No damage done. Now, this is the first time I've ever seen inside of one of these things. There's the water pump. I'm sure that's a fun job, especially in like a Tribeca. Can't imagine. The rest of this looks pretty good. Everything looks really nice. 200,000 miles. This looks better than a lot of engines with half the miles that we take apart. So the timing system all looks really nice. Like this is really nice for 200,000 miles. Looks a lot better than the outside of this engine. So right now I'm having some flashbacks for the cam gear bolts that I had to fight off on my old Outback XT. But I have faith that this will come right out. Let's just hope here. Yeah. So good. Now we'll peel the timing system off and start with this tensioner. I'm sure there's not a ton of force behind it. See, it's fine. Let's give the old test. Passed. And onto the other bank. That one failed. I'm just kidding. All right, let's start zipping some more bolts out until parts fall off. We'll go ahead and get these out. Okay. There's one chain. My, what a chain that is. That's a unit right there. This chain probably won't come off this yet. There's still too many things, but I bet if we get that bolt out. Ooh, that was under a little bit of tension. But look at that. So the guys are in excellent condition. Just moderate wear where the chain would ride on them, but they're not super fragile. I don't see any missing components. They all look really, really good. Really good. This engine's not just a regular EZ30, it's an EZ30R, which started in 2005. This is the first year for that because it has variable valve timing, or AVCS, on the intake cam. Let's continue continuing. Let's remove the water pump. Let's try a blue. No. Pretty sure I don't have to take this bolt out. Ooh, it just made a noise. I have no idea what that was. Unfazed. Totally unfazed. I don't understand. I do not understand. But you know what we're going to do? We're just going to work around it. We're going to get all the bolts out for the rear timing cover. Actually, we'll get this apart next. We'll get the oil pump apart, and then we'll get the timing cover off. It's going to be fine. All right, let's get the oil pump bolts loose. I don't think that's one of them. All right. There's another one right there. All right, the other size is a 4mm. Oh, cool. Doesn't like that. Yeah, no, bad stuff's gonna happen if I keep trying. Great. All right, we're gonna use a center punch and try to spin these counterclockwise. Let's zip out the bolts we can get out. We'll get all the rest of the timing cover bolts out, and we'll see what happens. I'm not having a good time right now. All right, let's crack some bolts loose. I'm just going to zip these out. We need to expedite this process. I'm going to be really stocked up on 10mm headed 6x1.0 bolts after this. All right, I'm confident that this side is done. There's so many fasteners here, it feels like I'm working on a Porsche. No, we are not done. No. I genuinely don't understand the affliction to hex head. I don't get it. Can I finally get one out? This should do it. Okay, so those do have to come out. You just draw it out that way. That one didn't really have to come out, I don't think. We have 2 more. Not a huge ordeal. Anytime you have these countersunk screws, and they get stuck, like set screws for rotors, you can do this and it works most of the time, unless it's super corroded. Usually when it's inside an engine, it's not super corroded. Well, this one's unhappy. See if we can get it out the old-fashioned way. Yes. All right, now the oil pump is apart. I see no bolts through this. I don't see any reason why this timing cover won't come off now, but we definitely had to get some of those out. 2 of those for sure. Actually, there are 2 bolts down here at the bottom, one right here. We're going to have to knock the socket in there. And then there's another one, I think it's right here. All right, at this point, this should just fall right off. What do you know? It fell off. There's the water pump. Wow, this is super corroded in here. So the oil pump looks pretty good. Not that we expected any type of failure here. There were no signs of oiling related problems, but this looks excellent. There's a few slight marks on the sides. But again, this is a 200,000 mile oil pump. It looks great. And behind the rear, or that's not really the rear timing cover. Is that a rear timing cover? A second timing cover? Behind the timing covers, this is really grody. I don't know how you'd ever keep this area clean. I don't know that you would need to, but yeah, changing that water pump, not going to be a fun job. Next, we're going to remove the oil supply line for the AVCS. Now we can finally peel a valve cover off of this. I think we're what, hour 7? No, I'm just kidding. It hasn't been that long. Okay, so some of these are going to break or round off. Corrosion. The problem is they have this shaft here. The shank here sits inside the valve cover and gets all corroded. 2 dissimilar metals and something corrosive. It's going to be a bad time. Nice, very cool. It broke the valve cover. Just totally broke that out. So I've got 1 here and 2 up here that are just gonna fight me. This is not gonna work. It did not work. This has been a rough teardown so far. All right, so my hope is that not only did I shock them into working, I'm going to hammer a socket onto them, which is not much meat, and we're going to see if we can get them off that way. We can hope, right? No, that's not going to work. I have no idea how you are supposed to fix this. No, that's just destroying my socket and the bolt. This is not going to work at all. I might just shatter the valve cover. It's already bad. Let's see if we can do that as safely as possible. I don't know if you could tell what happened there, but it just peeled away the valve cover. This is what it looks like post air hammer. I still got 1 on the bottom. So we're going to do the right thing and start trying to pry this off. It's not going to work, but we're going to try it anyway. I think I see why people buy these engines. Because if you have to work on it, it's almost easier just to replace the engine. I don't know how you techs in the Northeast work on these 20-year-old vehicles. I don't know how you do it. So I'm in the Midwest. We get rust, but not like this. Let's get the air hammer back and see if we can free it up a little bit more. Just blast right through it. that kind of worked. Let's see if we can do it again. Whoa there. All right. That probably didn't help us too much, but let's try prying on it again. Okay, we're further. Let's see if we can't get these bolts out now. Not that that would really do anything for us. Well, it broke off in the head, but the bolt's out. This is going so well. Oh, they come right out after you destroy the valve cover. Okay. Let's see if we can break the boss off the other one and not have to deal with it. There, we don't need that. All right, we're about off here. And the valve cover, the remains of the valve cover have been removed. So the inside of the engine looks great. This looks like it had really good oil change interval. There's hardly any varnish. There's just some debris from getting the valve cover off. I have no idea what you're supposed to do, like how you're supposed to treat this. Removing what I did here destroyed the valve cover, but you could fish that bolt out of the head. You could fish that bolt out of the head if you wanted to, and that'll probably come out. So I didn't do any catastrophic engine damage. As soon as I saw that the valve cover was broken, I don't know if it was here or here, it wasn't worth my time to try to fight all of those bolts, hammer extractors on, etc. It would have all resulted in time wasted. And I feel like if you're going to do valve cover gaskets on one of these engines, which it doesn't really look like it's been leaking. I mean, it's all clean under here. 200,000 miles in a super salty environment, and look how nice it looks. I don't know that they ever need valve cover gaskets. Maybe they do. But if you did take on that job and the car was from a rusty climate or salty climate, I would be very, very careful. All right, now it is time to cram the cam caps off. To do that, we're going to take these plugs out. I don't know if these are the actual bolt or if they're just a cover, but let's find out. Let's find out. Just a cover. There is a 10 millimeter bolt hidden behind that. And now we can cram the cam caps. And now we can pluck the cams out. So the journals in the head look excellent. This has a very interesting lifter design. See if we can fish one of these things out. Wow. I don't know that I've seen that on any other engines, just this one. These do not rotate. They're pinned, which is why they're worn like that. That's pretty cool. I'm sure someone in the comments can explain how those work. I'm not super familiar, but I bet it's oil pressure driven. It has to do with the AVCS system. Let's go look at the cams and the caps. So the front journals look pretty good. And the cams have some, I would call this moderate wear. This is pretty neat. This is a pretty cool design. The caps, however, do have more wear than I'd like to see. I don't know if the cams would be worth using. I don't really think there's a lot of demand for any of these parts at all. I know people 6-cylinder swap 4-cylinder Subarus, and that's awesome, but the engines are so cheap, you just buy a used engine. Now it is time to crack the head bolts loose. I have no idea how tight these are going to be. Not too bad. Not too good. Hey, stay where you're at. I had some of the brakes on, but this doesn't weigh a lot, and my floor is slick. You can hear the head gasket releasing. All right, let's pull the head off. And we're off. Well, head gasket. That looks good. How many times can you say that about a Subaru? Even the pistons look good. I'm going to get this wiped out and we'll take a look. The bores look really nice. Pistons, not a ton of carbon buildup. This does not look like it has 200,000 miles on it. No way. You can easily see the cross hatching. Virtually nowhere. It all looks really good. Cylinder head also looks really good, much as you'd expect. What's interesting is the buildup on that intake valve. That's peculiar, but outside of that, this tells me that this thing really wasn't run that hard. That should have fallen off. Well, science is a constant, and so am I. Like we expected. All right, let's see what kind of juices come out of this. Maybe nothing. Virtually nothing. That's pretty good. Same thing on this head. Get the oil supply. Oh, this one's a lot of fun. Now let's see if we can get the valve cover off this side without too much drama. Well, that's a surprise. I think somebody's been here. We just have that bolt right there. All right, this is going to come out. We just got to have a little bit of faith. What we're going to do is we're going to hammer on this and kind of peen it over since it's rounded off. The valve cover is loose. Yes. No. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's off. That was odd. Much like the other side, the side looks really good. Doesn't have as much shrapnel because the valve cover cooperated, but I think someone's had this off. It wouldn't have come off that easily if they hadn't. So now it's time to cram the cam craps loose, just like the other side, but there's no covers for the bolts. We can get straight access right now. And now we can pluck the cams out. Well, the right-hand bank looks pretty good. It's nice and tidy in here. Someone definitely did their oil changes. Really happy to see this. Camshafts look excellent. Better than the other side, I would say. I would say a little bit of wear to the journals. It's not bad. Some wear in the caps, but not. I don't think this is enough to cause major concern. Let's crack the other bank's head bolts loose. All right, what's behind head number 2? Well, this head gasket looks pretty good. Yeah, looks great. The rest of this looks pretty good too. Let's get it cleaned up and get a better look. So same thing on this side. Pistons are surprisingly clean. The bores look nice. Pistons look good. These two have a little bit less carbon than the front one. I'm not sure why that is. Nothing's jumping out at me though. Cylinder head, nice and even. Although the valves look a little different in the center cylinder. And maybe it's because they tried to get it to compression or leak down test better, or they tried to add fluid. Maybe that's why they're a little darker. But either way, no smoking gun. Let's do some science. Like we thought. Now we're going to turn this thing totally upside down so we can pull the lower oil pan. I'll just let it drain for a minute. So I think this had some residual oil in it. I am just so happy that the lower oil pan is not held on with hex head bolts. Let's get this lower oil pan removed. Oh, that one's happy. Are those 8s? Or are they round? What has happened to these? We're going to turn these into 9s because they are rounded off. Or maybe they are 9s. And if they are, they shouldn't be. Ridiculous using a 9mm headed bolt on a Subaru. Can I have my socket back? Oh, maybe there's a place to donate it here. Perfect. Okay, all the bolts are out. See if we can get this thing off. Perfect. Well, the pickup is clean. There is some varnish in here, but not a lot. Usually, if something's going to look varnished, it's going to be in the bottom. And, well, this looks pretty good. Let's go look at the lower oil pan. It's got a magnet in there. There's not a lot of stuff on it. This looks good. I like seeing that. Next, we'll get the pickup removed. And now it's time for the upper oil pan. And there's a few things that I don't like about this besides the fact that it has my least favorite fastener ever. They look like 6mm headed hex cap screws, bolts, whatever you want to call them. This one is completely blocked by the oil cooler. There's one right here. I'm going to use vice grips on it. I could take this off. I could take this off. I get it. But we're going to take a shortcut. One other thing I wanted to make mention is to how badly this crossover pipe is rusted. This is what happens when you treat the roads with way too much rock salt and you never wash anything. So now we're going to try to get some of these bolts out. There's some in here, some around the perimeter. Let's see how this goes. Also, I bolted the engine stand to it like a noob. So we're going to have to contend with that. We'll cross that bridge when it falls down. All right, we're going to start with the easiest ones first, which is the opposite of what you're supposed to do. Oh, cool. That one rounded off. Let's get a hammer to tap these in. This is going to be a great time. I can feel it already. Let's get all of the other ones zipped out. Battery has
been depleted.
This may not work, and I might really regret this, but I'm still gonna do it. Or it's gonna work perfectly. And it can just stay there. All right, I have to get this and this off before I can get the upper oil pan off. So these are studs and not bolts. So even if I got the nuts off, that sounds bad. Even if I got the nuts, I can't say it without that. Even if the studs remained, the studs are gonna stay there and I won't be able to get this off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna peen the edges of the threads so that way when the nut hits it, it locks up and it pulls the stud out of that, so I don't have to play a huge, ridiculous game here. This one's a little... Okay, let's see how that goes. See if my idea works. That did not work. Okay, let's try this one. That did work. Let's peen some more. Could also use the air chisel and kind of mess the threads up. Did not work. Well, it kind of worked. Now what has happened? Okay, bad stuff is happening. I could get the welder out. That's a lot of work. All right, I got it back down with the air. If that doesn't do it, it should have. Well, that's a little bent, but we got it out. Oh, I think we're in the clear. Look at that. So here's what it looks like with the upper oil pan removed. And I was curious to see if I'd be able to get the rod cap bolts from this angle, and no. This comes apart like an EJ and not like an FA or an F series engine. It comes apart by taking these caps out, I believe, which gives you access to the wrist pin in the right location. You pull the circlip out of the wrist pin, the pistons stay in the block halves, and when you split the case comes apart with the rod stay on the crankshaft, and then you knock the pistons out of the case halves. I believe that's how this is going to work. This is going to be a lot of fun because I've never done this on a 6-cylinder. I don't know how hard this center one's going to be to get to, but we'll get there. And one thing I am going to do, I'm going to rotate this. We're going to take a minute besides draining the rest of the engine sauce out of it, and we're going to get all of the fasteners that hold the block halves together loose. We're not going to get them out, but we're going to get them loose. Now that it's fastened to the engine stand by only 2 bolts, I found it's the most prudent time to get all of these out, or try to. And then more importantly, these are the same size as the head bolts. They are 10mm hex cap. We'll get them cracked loose. We'll just leave it kind of like this. I'll put the brakes on the stand and we'll get those pop loose next. All right, let's crack these loose. Oh, wow. Hopefully these all play nice. That one just hissed at me. Oh, the smell of the trapped gases when I crack these loose that gets released is less than ideal. Ooh, that one was bubbly. I think that's all of them. Now we're going to get the 5 12mm headed bolts, and we're going to get this thing, actually we'll probably break the things loose at the front, the access holes at the front first as well. Let's get to the front of the engine. Okay, let's get these loosened if we can. These are 14 millimeter hex. Wow. They are tight. This one is slightly corroded. We have to get that cleaned out just like we did with the timing cover. Still not 100%. I won't take less than perfect. That's much happier. I really want that back. Yep, that's how that's going to come apart. At this point, I'm going to get the engine off of the stand and on. I have a small hydraulic table, and we're going to split the case on the table. Now, the back of this engine has 2 access holes as well. One of them is nice and easy. It's this one right here. This one has, it looks like small Allen headed or hex head. Not looking forward to those, but this should come right out. For some reason, these are 4 millimeter. I don't know why they're so small, but shock it a little bit. We'll see if we can get it out with my quarter drive ratchet. It shouldn't be that tight. Oh yeah, nice and easy. I should have just shocked this one. Shaboopy. So this is how we get this apart. We're going to turn the engine over until we can see the circlip, like so, for the wrist pin. We're going to remove said circlip, and then from the other side, we should be able to drive the wrist pin out the front. Should be able to. All right, this might be a little hard to do with the camera right here, so I'm going to move you guys out of the way for just a second. All right, the circlip has been removed. It actually fell down in here. It's fine because we're not, it's fine. But I'm going to go to the other side and we're going to drive it out the front. Are we moving? We're moving. We're moving even further. We just got to do that 5 more times. It looks like the other side, same position, I can get the front one out, so we're going to go ahead and do that right now. I just get it blasted off of there and we'll get it knocked out. Great success. All right, now we're going to rotate this to where I think I can get to the middle one, which is the one that I had no idea if it's gonna happen or not. Where's the middle one? Oh, it's blocked by a rod. All right, I think we're gonna fight it this way. Now I don't have to fight the rod. I have no idea how I'm gonna get the circlip out of there. I don't have needle nose that'll get in there. That'll have to do. Having a great time. All right, well, I got that one out. Now we're gonna get the other one out in the same position. We'll flip it back horizontal and drive them out. All right, let's do this again. Now that the clips are out. I feel like I'm sticking out the other end there. I am. That's not right. That did not work the way I wanted it to. Cannot tell what is happening. It feels like I may have gotten somewhere. That's what happens when you work by feel. Okay, that wrist pin has left. But where it is, nobody knows. All right, let's go to the other side. We're not gonna be able to see it come out, so I might as well go this direction. All right, I heard it hit that other rod, so now we're gonna get that rod out of the way. I'm not really quite sure what's happening, but things are happening. I know that's super descriptive for you guys. Oh, there's a wrist pin laying in there. It falls into the bottom of the bore. So now all we have are the rear two, which we will go the other direction on. All right, so we're gonna see what it takes to get lined up here. Oh, we're losing parts. Uh-oh. There's, we're running into some problems here. Might have to, there we go. We just kicked out a couple extra wrist pins. It gave birth. Let's see if that helped us turn this thing over. I really hope it does. Boom. Just a little bit more. Perfect. Just trying to remove some clips. There's one. This one's a little harder because it's a little deeper. That's made terrible. That's a terrible visual. Sorry, guys. And they're both out. So now we get to drive the final two wrist pins out. There's one. I've got to rotate this just a hair. I had something in a bind in there. Ah, perfecto. Bada bing, bada boom. Now it's time to split the case. All of the bolts are out. All right, let's give it a couple taps. Oh, we're splitting. Stuff's happening. Let's see if old Blue can get in there and bridge the gap. That might be the word to use. Okay, we have separation. Not sure what's hanging this thing up. Is it this thing? It's this thing. Will you get out of here, you... Look at that. There's a dowel right here. Whoa there, almost dropped half of it. There's block half number one. And block half number two. Right here. Neatorino. That's pretty cool. So here's the crankshaft with all 6 connecting rods. It's much like an EJ. We're just going to use the impact and zip all these out. And then after that, we'll knock the pistons out of the block halves. What the heck is going on here? Okay, let's go knock the pistons out. And we're all apart. Let's take a look at the rod bearings. They definitely have some wear. They're not torn up. It just looks like it's just wear. I wouldn't say it's normal. but it's certainly not an indicator of an underlying problem. And here are the rods and pistons and their wrist pins. So all the rods look nice. The pistons, they all look pretty good. The oil rings are free of debris. I don't think the reason if it did actually fail a leak down was in the bottom end. I bet we're looking at something in the cylinder heads. All these look pretty nice. It's pretty wild that this comes apart this way. It's definitely an unusual engine for this channel. The main bearings have a little bit more wear, and I don't really know why. I don't see signs of neglect. Maybe it was run a little low. But they still look good. I don't think you'd see any oil pressure related issues because of the condition of these bearings. And as such, there's a little bit of damage to the main journals. It's hard. It probably would polish out. The rod journals all look nice. Looks pretty decent, really. Here's what the inside of the block halves look like. They're very simple. They look pretty well built. So the bores are all in really good shape, but what I wanted to show you was the hole that is in the bottom of the bore for the wrist pin to pass through. And that's in every single one on both sides. And that's where the wrist pins go. So when you get it out of the center cylinder, it usually falls into the bore of whichever direction you're hitting it. And the bores are excellent. I really wish I had more information to tell you guys as to what was wrong with this engine, how it failed a leak down test. But I can only guess, and that is that it had rusty or pitted valves or valve seats. And sometimes those type of things will clear up once an engine gets to operating temperature and is driven under load. A lot of times when an engine sits in the same position for an extended period of time in a humid environment, it collects moisture, rust forms, and then you have your leak down loss where the rust is. And in many cases, simply running the engine to temperature will alleviate the problems. It's just when they sit for a long time that it could potentially fail a leak down test. Now this engine, it was frustrating. It was a lot harder to tear down than I anticipated, and I don't think that had to do with the overall construction of this engine. I don't think it's a horrifically built engine. I actually think it's overbuilt. I think it was a culmination of the super salty environment that the vehicle lived in, which many cars in the Northeast are like this, and a combination of the type of fasteners that they chose. Very poor type of fasteners. I'm not a big fan of hex head cap screws, if you can't already tell. Regardless of that, it came apart. We were able to get the whole thing apart, and it was kind of fun. I know challenging things, more difficult things are hard to label as fun, but I like tearing down stuff that I've never done before. This is the very first H6, maybe the very last one, because it took so long to find one that was bad. Now, I know you guys are probably jonesing for some carnage, and I promise I'll have some for you next week. But in this case, a lot of you have been asking for this engine, and I'm glad I was finally able to deliver. So if you'd like to buy any parts from this engine, well, I'll sell anything out of this engine. But if you need Subaru parts, again, I'm going to leave a link to PMP Auto Group in the video description. If you need parts for non-Subaru vehicles, you can go to my website at importapart.com or email us. I'll leave our email in the description as well. I really hope you enjoyed this teardown as always. I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one.